So this week on the Any Given Runday podcast, we have personal trainer and online coach of the Built Different program, host of the Built Different podcast, and who's in hot pursuit of a sub 3 hour marathon in Dublin this October. Aaron Horan, welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. How are you getting on?
How's things, lads? Thanks very much for having me on, and thanks very much for the nice intro. I wasn't expecting all of that.
I'm surprised he didn't butcher it. This was definitely a built different intro from Sean because it's not as usual. He obviously felt the pressure this week.
Love that. Absolutely love it.
Aaron, you're very welcome on. And running is very much new to you from what we've seen, and you're doing so well. Even through your first marathon, you set some good times in comparison to even myself and Sean. It was good. I suppose, what got you into running? What built you different?
That's a good question, that. To be honest, you know what? Growing up, I was always one of those lads that played sport, and I said, put a football in front of me and I'll run all day. But if I don't have a football, forget it. I'm not going any further than 5 or 10K. But back in just when we were coming back out of lockdown, actually, when the sports were back allowed, when you were allowed back into training, I went back to play football because that was what I had loved, and that was what I was really passionate about growing up. And there was a session that we had, and I completely broke my ankle and tore the ligaments off of the bone. So yeah, I was basically told that I would pretty much never play sport again unless I'd got reconstructive surgery of my ligaments, and I had like a bleed inside me ankle bone or my foot or whatever that means. I can't remember, but he basically told me, look, you'll never play sport again unless you go and get this surgery. And in fairness, like, that completely deflated me. Football was all I'd really known growing up, and it was what I was massively passionate about. But at the same time, I wasn't willing to go and get this surgery because it would have kept me off my feet for anywhere between 3 and 6 months. It was a long recovery period, and obviously with being an on the floor personal trainer at the time, I couldn't take that amount of time off my feet. So after a couple of months, well, first and foremost, I decided to pretty much not take that as an answer. And I said, there has to be another way. There has to be some sort of way which I can get back playing football, or at least I can get back doing some sort of competitive sports. So I signed up with the lads at Movement 101. They're all about like movement and mobility and taking real control of your body. And it was a long, rehab protocol, to be honest. I didn't do anything for about 9 months, but I remember then, before going back to play football, or before at least going and trying to play football, I said, look, I'll just try and go for a run. I'll see if my ankle can even take any impact. And I remember going out, and I was absolutely blown about 2K in. I was in bits. But I felt unbelievable. Like, I felt absolutely super. And I remember going out, and I said to him, do you know what? I'm going to go out and crack out a 5K and see how this feels. I didn't even get the 5K, to be honest with you. I think I got to 4.6 and I was gone. I was done. But I voice noted him. And usually I'm quite hard on myself, really, I suppose, high expectations of myself. It didn't even cross my mind that I didn't get 5K done. It was more so, my God, you feel great. Your ankle feels good. And from there on in, it was just like, right, well, let's see how far we can take this. I did get back playing ball, not competitively or anything like that. But after that run, and then I just done a couple more. And I remember I'd never done 10K. And I said to me coach, I think I'd gotten to 7 or 8K. And I remember texting him. And I was like, if all going well here, I think I'd like to have a crack at a marathon. And he says, what? He says, you relax, you only done bleeding 5K 2 weeks ago. And I said, yeah, I feel great, and I'd love to see how far I can take this. And he says, look, we'll have a crack at it. I said, look, I've never done more than 10K. Let's see how we go. So yeah, that was really it, to be honest with you. I went out to see if I could run, to go back playing football. But then I don't know, I fell in love with running after hating it for so long. He had obviously introduced me to low intensity, zone 2 work, like, and actually running slow, which up until that point, I'd only ever went out and tried to hit a PB every single run. What lad in their teens that has no clue about running doesn't, you know what I mean? And every single run, I just hated it, and I finished deflated. But then when he introduced me more to zone 2 work and stuff like that, I was like, oh, this is actually quite good. And it was great for, at the time as well, I'd gone through a bad patch with my mental health. obviously with breaking my ankle, and that was in, coming out of lockdown, but we were still technically in lockdown as well. It was just when sports were allowed to go back behind closed doors. So it was actually amazing for my mental health. And yeah, just every time I went out the door, I was seeing the progress. And that's the one thing I love about running as well. The progress is there in front of your eyes. Like it's black and white. You know what I mean? Numbers don't lie. Humans do sometimes, but, but numbers don't. And I think I just fell in love with the simplicity of it. And every time, as I said, it was actually obviously in the summer, and I'd started prepping for Dublin that year back in 22, and the good weather, and yeah, it was just, I fell in love with it just out of nowhere. It was mad.
From being a personal trainer as your background, and getting news like that from what we take as a specialist, because when you meet a doctor, you take them as the crafts, the same way people listen to you when they're lifting weights, you try to listen to them. How difficult was it to say no to that advice, to look for the different ways? What were the things? Because there's so many people that will go to the doctor and like, oh, that's it, you for 4 weeks, don't do this, don't do that. And others like, oh, there has to be another way. How did you find that gap, I suppose? How did you find that thing that says, I am another way? That's probably the part I was missing from that. What was the other solution?
Yeah, I guess I am quite stubborn in it, just in nature, and I don't like to take no as an answer. If someone tells me I can't do something, I generally go and do it. Or if someone tells me to do something, I generally won't do it. I think as humans, we're generally, you get grounded as a kid. The first thing you want to do is find a way out the window. Do you know what I mean? maybe that's just me, but hopefully my nanny doesn't listen to this. But yeah, like, to be honest with you, I left, and there was an element of me that thought, right, that's that. You're gonna just have to focus on, because I was really, really taking, my strength training to a new level, and I was really getting involved in that, and I'd done a photo shoot and stuff like that. So I was really kind of enjoying that and the physique side of things. But there was something that just there was no real competitive nature in that. And I was like, no, I love physical like exercise. And I know strength training is that, but I love endurance, like, a 90-minute match that goes to extra time and you have to really, really, really dig deep. And I just love that. Like, I love, just having to go, I don't know, soul searching, when you're in the depths of it, like, I just get a buzz out of that. I get a thrill out of it, to be honest. So there was a part of me, I did want to go back playing football. As I said, I ended up not going back and falling in love with running. Yeah, I left, I was completely deflated, and I did think, right, this is it. But there was something that just says, no, there has to be another way. Like there always is another way. And where there's a will, there was a way. I was willing to do anything at this stage. So I had known the lads at Movement 101. I'd known them I had worked with them previously, like a couple of years before that. We just worked in the same gym, and the lad's approach was always very, very different to, listen, there's a lot of amazing physios and practices out there, but they're extremely different in what they do. And I had heard stories of like them helping people avoid hip surgery and hip replacements. And I was just like, well, what's the worst that happens? Like, what if I'm still in the same spot? If I sign up with these lads, and they said it to me at the start. I remember Brian, he's a good friend of mine, and he said, look, he goes, I can't guarantee this will work. He said, but we'll have a good crack at it. And from there on in, it was, listen, it was tedious as I am. Like, it was just, I went from, competitive football and doing photo shoots and all to sitting on the floor, rolling my ankle around for 5 minutes straight, and that was as tedious as that. And I was doing stuff like that for the guts of, now don't get me wrong, some of the stuff then he had me doing, I was torture. But just for 9 months, going in and having to take the, what a lot of people see as really boring, tedious work. And it is boring. You know what I mean? You're going into the gym and you're spending 30 minutes just slowly breathing and doing ankle circles and, calf raises and all that sort of stuff. But he had definitely done stuff that I'd never even seen from a physio before. And it was very, very different. And I guess it was just all about building confidence. So as soon as I actually started to feel like my ankle was able to take any sort of load, I guess I am a bit of an opportunist. I was like, right, well, let's just take the first stab at going for a run, you know. So yeah, I guess the one thing was knowing that the lads were there and seeing the approach they had taken, seeing like they work with Premier League players and, you know, professional golfers, and like what the lads did was unbelievable. You know, I can't speak highly enough of them, and they got me to essentially where I am today. But I just knew, there had to be another way. I know your man was one of the best feeders in the country, but there was still something in me that was like, no, I'm not having that. You know, so I think there was a little bit of just me backing myself, and then two, finding a completely different approach that I had tried before.
We're so glad you mentioned Brian and Movement 101, because now they have to give us €1 million or come onto the podcast. Them the rules. I don't make them. These are just the rules, Brian. If you're listening, we're gonna tag you in it. We'll see you for next week's episode. But no, it is true, and a lot of things. And one thing Sean has beaten into me over the years, and it's something he's been working on, and we've had our own fair share of it, is movement is medicine. You know, like we're sitting down all day, we're getting sore backs, we're getting this, and movement can be a medicine as long as you're patient. And that, I suppose that's what you touched on quite a bit, is patience is key. When you were forced, and I say forced, to be as patient as you are, has that carried into your mentality into running? Has that helped? Because most of us start running marathons trying to win the thing, and we blow up and we take 5.5 hours or whatever happens. Has that patient approach from your recovery into your zone 2, having to only run 3K, has that made a massive impact in your approach to running?
Yeah, 100%. Now, there are also times where I let my ego get the better of me and I do go out a bit too fast and I blow up. But no, it definitely has. You know what? That 9-month period where I had to really, really take stock of, this needs to be done, otherwise you're not going to get the result that you want. That was massively humbling. And it just showed me that, like, you know, everything is earned, nothing is deserved, you know. And I think you can sit on, so for me, you know, I played football to a quite a high level, you know, I've achieved a lot, like within my coaching career and stuff like that. I guess it would have been very easy for me to like sit on those achievements and what I've done in the past. But I actually really enjoyed the being brought back to square one and having to really rebuild from the very, very get-go again. I do 100% think that it just crossed over into everything, even with building a business. You know, I don't mind taking the longer route if I know that I'm doing it the right way. I don't mind if it's going to take me, like, I know I've obviously gotten into running and I'm quite new to it. And I guess, look, there's obviously people out there who are running way better times than me, doing it, you know, not even as long as I am. But I know I have made a lot of progress in quite a short amount of time relative to your average runner. But at the same time, I couldn't give a shit if it takes me 10 years to break 3 hours. I just want to see 2:59:59 on that clock. And that's really all that matters. And whatever amount of work that has to be done, it's as simple as that. Because obviously, when you're going for such a time, or when you're going for really any time in the marathon, everything has to go right on the day. But if you haven't done the work, and not just the training, but the recovery, the, you know, sleep, stress management is a huge one for me that I focus on as well. Like, you're probably just not ready yet. And that's the way I look at it, is if I don't get 3 hours in Dublin, I'm getting text messages left, right, and center. Oh, you're definitely gonna get it. Dude, the work you've done. And I'm like, no, I'm not guaranteed to get that. Like, I went out 3 weeks before Cork and done 32K at 4:10s. And I said to Wayne, I says, Wayne, like, I could have done another 10K at 4:10 there. I says, I felt unbelievable. And I went out in Cork then, blew up at 30K and got a 3:13. And I don't think it was a case that, you know, things went wrong. And yeah, a couple of little things went wrong, but I just don't think I was ready yet. That's all it is, you know. And I think in order to achieve something, you have to become the person that's capable of achieving it. You know, like if someone gave me $1 million business now, I'd run the thing into the ground tomorrow, because I didn't build it. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know I don't know what skills, what characteristics, what kind of mindset, what kind of even belief systems it requires to actually hold on to that business, let alone even build it. So it's like I always say, even with coaching, if I gave someone the results and gave them a six pack within 2 weeks, they'd be fat within another 2 weeks. And I mean that in the nicest way possible.
Hold on, are you offering 6 packs in 2 weeks? I'll take one of them just for 2 weeks.
Yeah, a six pack
I don't care. I'm fat now. I'll be fat in 2 weeks. Just give me 2 weeks of fun. I'll get me
Eric obviously hasn't seen the afters of all those people, the Biggest Loser over the years. They lose all the weight and they put it all back on within a couple of years afterwards.
They were happy for them 2 weeks. Don't worry about them.
They died to get that weight and they went right back up again. I don't think they were happy. Just before we talk about your first marathon, Aaron, I just want to go back to moving 101 a second and getting into running. How much has it influenced your own coaching now with people? Has it influenced you to do more mobility and stuff in your sessions? Even though you came from more of a strength training background, I'm assuming you had with all that building up into it and running. Does that influence how you train people now, or was that just excruciating rehab I had to do to get to where I am now?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. I wouldn't obviously take someone to the level that I went to. I don't think, most people that like want coaching or whatever probably won't need that level. And if they were to be honest, I'd just send them straight to the source. You know what I mean? I wouldn't even bother trying to touch on that sort of stuff. But I definitely have added an element of mobility to the work that I do with my clients, 100%, because at the end of the day, I'm all about achievements and, breaking sub 3 and doing just things that you never thought possible. Like that's what I'm all about, and just being curious to see what your body is capable of if you're willing to push it to its absolute limits. But I'm also about longevity as well, and that's why I talk about like stress management for myself and like recovery and ensuring that I'm on top of all of the stuff that most people really don't take seriously enough. But again, is that why the injury rate is so high for marathon training? Do you know what I mean? Because doesn't everybody want to do the training? Doesn't everybody want to go out and, hit a PB? But nobody really wants to go to bed at 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. Do you know what I mean? Nobody really wants to, set boundaries with their phone. Nobody really wants to eat a salad instead of a pizza.
Listen, accusations, Aaron, accusations.
Listen,
keep your six-pack, bud. Keep it.
Don't worry. Me and my missus were only talking about debt row meals earlier, and mine is a pizza, so I'm not asking anyone to give up pizza here. But basically, what I mean by that is like the majority of the work that needs to be done is generally boring, and I'm all about longevity. So it definitely has influenced the way that I coach clients, but at the same time, a really well-structured program, and this is what the lads at Movement 101 also helped me understand, a really well-structured program will actually improve your mobility as a result of the specific programming, So like there's an element of, like certain mobility if someone has like a certain niggle or if they're running into a certain issue, but like when someone is doing strength training and they have the correct programming, it will improve their mobility at like the end ranges, which is where most people get injured. So it will improve their mobility. It will improve how robust their body is and essentially what a level of impact and stress they can take on, So it has influenced, but not in the way that I've just become this kind of mobility coach, that way. I've definitely added elements of it into it, but not to the level that the lads do.
So 2022, you called at the time the hardest thing you've ever done, October Dublin Marathon. Talk us through it. Was the goal to get the time you got, or was it just your first one? Let's just go for broke and see how you get on. How did you approach that first marathon?
So do you know what? Initially, I'd obviously been speaking to a couple of lads that had done marathons and stuff. They said 4 hours is a cracking time for your first marathon. And I thought to myself, well, yeah, I'm only running like 3.5 months. And like the longest run I had done was, and this was like mid-August, I think. It was 15K at 7:03 a kilometer. So I was thinking like, let's have a go at 4 hours. And then I kind of started to get a little bit fitter and I started to feel a bit better. And then I remember I went out and I done 25K at 5 somethings, I don't know. And I remember saying to me coach then, right, let's go 450. And then, 350. And he says, okay, cool. And then a week or two passed by and I text him then. I says, why don't we go sub 345? And then that just kept going, to be honest with you. And again, I'm that kind of person. Like I would just want to test the waters and see what I'm capable of. So to be honest, no, I didn't get the time that I wanted. And I suppose this is a personal experience that if anyone can, anyone that maybe is going for their first marathon can really take from this is you don't really have a right to set a time for your first time doing something. Like you don't necessarily have a right to set a specific level of body fat if it's your first time doing a fat loss phase. You don't really have a right to set a specific time for a marathon. You can set a goal time, but in my opinion, you cannot allow that to become everything about the marathon. It has to be about enjoying it, because don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. And I remember running Clontarf 2 weeks later, the half marathon, and someone came over and goes, "Yes, there's the human highlighter and the human karaoke machine," because I was in full Illuminous, and I swear to God, I'd say for about 28k of Dublin Marathon, I was screaming, singing at the top of my lungs. Like people were just in amazement. What's the story with your man? What's up with him? But basically, I crossed the line, first ever marathon, had overcome obviously the injury and that. And I broke down in tears because I missed my time by 2 minutes. And my missus was like, she was just overwhelmed with joy and pride, and like she couldn't believe it. And she was crying out of pride, where I was crying out of like disappointment and frustration, even though I hadn't actually realized what I had achieved, if that makes sense. So
if you're not going to say I am, you achieved a 3:32 on your first marathon, pal. That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah. I was still come here. I was delighted, and I look back on it now, and I'm like, wow, like you done that, and I wouldn't even mind. I ran the first 30k. Like I was on for like a 3:13 or something, and my partner actually, she was really frightened because I came to a full stop, and it takes a lot for me to stop. But like I actually thought my hamstring was going to snap. I remember it was actually just coming up the Heartbreak Hill, and there was this Canadian woman, and she was pushing me on, and then I was like, well, I'm not letting her beat me, like, and then I ran by her, and then I pulled up again, and she ran by me again, and it was like this little game of go-karts, and she just kept overtaking me, and I kept overtaking her. I'd say if I had just actually pulled a few seconds off my pace for the first 30k, I would have probably got a sub 3:24. I don't know, but like again, it doesn't really matter, because that day was one of the best days of my life. It was one of the greatest things I'd ever achieved, especially obviously after what I'd gone through in the previous 12 to 14 months.
It's a huge achievement, and as well as that, I think your advice is right. That, and I think it's spot on, and probably not many people have said it in so elegantly, is that you can't set a time, and a lot of people for your first is just enjoy it and cross that finish line with that experience, because everyone who crosses that finish line feels the emotion of crossing the finish line of a marathon.
Absolutely. It's an emotion you can't even explain, to be honest. And I think that's the big thing a lot of people miss out on. Like a lot of people finish a marathon and say, oh my God, I'm never doing it again. Now, don't we all? But then 24 hours later, we're straight back online booking the Dublin Marathon ticket for next year. But a lot of people genuinely do finish with a horrible experience, or a negative perspective towards the marathon. And it's not the way it's supposed to be done. Again, they call the marathon the victory lap, because, like you run 500, 600, 700. Some people run into the thousands of kilometers for training, and then you're doing 42. Now, of course, it is difficult. You go through a lot of emotions, and there's times where you do want to give up, but it's about enjoying it. It's about enjoying the day. It's about like the crowds, like it's unbelievable. It really is. It's like it's like a concert. Do you know what I mean? It's just like a sporting concert. Like it's madness, but it's amazing. And I guess that's why I'm hooked on it.
Unfortunately, we all know the feeling. From a training perspective, apart from you felt like you could have paced yourself a little bit more, was there anything afterwards you went, I want to work more on this and this for the next one? Because I'm assuming like you straight away signed up for the next one, or the goal was in mind to get that sub 3:30. In terms of approaching your training for the next marathon, what was your thought process?
Oh, to be honest, just do better, because I didn't really know an awful lot about training. Like the lads at Movement 101 had done some work with, I'm sure you, I think you've been on the podcast, Health Matters, Sean Canan. So the lads had done a bit of work with him with the marathon program and stuff like that, but they weren't running coaches either. Do you know what I mean? So it was just like, here's the skeleton of a plan, go and follow that, and let's just see how you get on. So To be honest, yeah, there was a lot I needed to work on. I needed way more. Like, I remember finishing the Dublin half, and I was in absolute bits. And I said to myself, I'm not doing the full in 5 weeks' time. Not a hope. I said, no way I'm going to be able to actually double that. Like, that was the longest run I'd ever done in my life. And I was like, there's no way. Like, how am I even going to get up to 30K in the next 3 weeks? I did. I got one, I think I got 130K or something like that done before Dublin. Or maybe it was 32, but like I'd only done probably 3 or 4 actual long runs. And that came back to bite me in the arse. I didn't really know what I was doing. Tapering wise, like I went out and played a 7-a-side 3 days before Dublin now. Whether that whether that was a good or bad idea, I don't know. Obviously, it wasn't ideal with the risk of injury, but I actually, they say like keep a bit of speed in the legs. I think it did help slightly, but I also think it did backfire later on into the race as well because I didn't have that experience of 32K onwards. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't, but once you've done the necessary work, like I didn't do anywhere near as much training as most people would for a marathon, if that makes sense. I was only running 2 to 3 times a week, basically. Do you know what I mean? And like doing one long run on the weekend. And again, I done probably 3 to 4 long runs max in that thing. So I didn't really know where I was going, what I was doing. And obviously the lads had a bit of an idea. The goal for me was just to keep running, keep improving, like again, run longer, run faster. So all the usual things if you're a beginner runner, I just want to get faster and I just want to run longer. So that was my kind of plan, to be honest with you. So that was what I done for a couple of months. And yeah, that was it really. Then obviously I had a good crack at Cork then June the following year, but I didn't really have much structure or like plan or anything like that. It was just go out and run and just get better, to be honest.
Was crossing that finish line the final chapter on your injury for you? Was that what that marathon was for you in terms of what it meant, and crossing that 42, the longest run you've done to date? And okay, you missed out in your time, but that's probably a lot of those tears. Yeah, okay, you missed the time, but a lot of it is a closing chapter on that injury. Do you still look on that now as a benefit? Because there's the old proverbs, an injury, good luck, bad luck, who knows? It's gotten you into running now, and you said it's helped in mental health. Closing that chapter on that injury, what has running done for you now and going forward? Has it been a better impact in your life, do you think, and in your training and what you bring to clients?
Without a shadow of a doubt. Like without a shadow of a doubt. Like being able to, again, it's the whole concept of going against what the society will tell you is right, or someone that is. And again, don't get me wrong, he was a phenomenal physio. He obviously knew his stuff, but there's always another way. A lot of people are kind of, I suppose, stuck in the way. I'm just not that type of person, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. For me, I was told you can't do this by someone who obviously knew a lot more than me and was a professional in this area. And then for me to go and be able to say, well, hold on a minute, I'll find out for myself, and be able to nearly just prove myself right that I can overcome this and I don't have to conform to what somebody else tells me just because that's what they think. That would, like, that, to overcome that was just unbelievable, because the amount of doubt and the amount of fear, to be honest with you. Like, I remember obviously I was working in the gym, we set up like a 5-a-side group, and I actually set it up and I wasn't even fucking allowed to play football. Because I was buzzing, and I was like, yeah, maybe I'll get back playing one day. And then I remember then we had organised the game, and I voiced out one of the lads. I says, I don't think I'm gonna play later. I don't want to risk it. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen, and I don't want to go through that again, because that wasn't the first time doing my ankle. I'd done both ankles probably minimum of 4 or 5 times on each side. Now obviously that was the most horrific one. But like, because I had this repeated history of this injury, I was like, well, how easy is it going to be to happen again? Like, I basically don't have ligaments, or at least I didn't think I did at the time. Like, they're not attached to the bone, like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
how much stability is there? So I voiced not with him. I was like, look, I'm not going to play, I'm shitting it. And I asked him for his honest advice, and he says, well, what would you tell a client if they told you they had a bit of a niggle and they weren't going to train. I says, well, let's try walk around, or let's go at your own pace. And that kind of gave me a little bit of, oh, well, maybe just go and get in goal for a few minutes and see how it feels. And if there's any pain or anything like that there, well, then just, just step out. And I went and I actually ran amok that day, and that was kind of part of a part. now come here.
Running rings around everyone.
Yeah, now come here. The lads weren't great at all, to be honest. So I was no Maradona or Pele, trust me.
But bringing that to your clients now, how do you take that? Obviously, it's a good lesson in life and in training. And what do you bring? I suppose we know you add in a bit of mobility, but in that mentality, what do you bring to your clients?
Oh, the mentality is that you're like, genuinely, we tell absolutely everybody when they start was like, you are capable of so much more than you believe. Again, like growing up, a lot of people are told, oh, don't push yourself too hard, and don't do this and don't do that, and it does become ingrained in their belief systems. And I know I'm probably going into the mentality side of things here a little bit, but that's I suppose an area that I'm massively invested in, because it was an area that I massively invested in when I got injured, and then obviously through the rehab and stuff, there was a lot of mental and emotional work that needed to be done in order for me to overcome this injury, because injury isn't just physical. It's mental and emotional as well, and there's a lot of fear, and there's a lot of fear mongering as well, around like certain injuries, and don't do this or you'll hurt your back. Well, it says who? Like, if someone is strong enough to do that, they're not going to hurt their back. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how many of us bend over and hunch over to pick something up every single day, and yet we're told to like sit with your chest up, or you see these bleeding back straps now, and it's like, oh, fix your posture, and it's like, relax, chill out. Like, if someone is genuinely strong, like, they can sit in whatever position they want once they have the power to control it. But a lot of injury is mental and emotional, and I think we can now get the best out of our clients. And I think a big part of that isn't us just showing the way, it's actually leading the way. So I always say, like, don't just talk the talk, walk the walk, like, and don't talk about it, be about it. And for me to be able to then share certain experiences that I have had, and certain, like, I suppose, aspects of like my mentality and how I approach certain scenarios, say, when you're going through the pain and suffering of a tough run or a tough session, and you want to quit or you want to give up, like, that then allows our clients to understand, like, right, I don't feel like I can do it, but I'm just gonna have a crack anyways. And then, like, again, I've ran 3 marathons and tried to crack like, I've done 3 marathons for time and not hit me time once. Yeah, I don't give a shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't mean I'm a failure. It doesn't mean that I'm not good enough to run a marathon, or it just means that I wasn't ready at that time to run that specific time. I wasn't ready, and I just needed more work, more time, more patience, more effort, more training, more recovery. And it's as simple as that, because the one thing I will always say is, I want to do this until I'm like, I want to be running marathons with my grandchildren, like even great grandchildren. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it's really all about for me. So I suppose it just really allows me to dig into a client's psychology and why they're afraid to maybe do something, or why they have resistance behind pushing themselves or getting the best out of themselves. And it allows me to kind of nearly take them on a journey where they can start to actually get the best out of themselves. They can start to, again, kind of push through the pain barrier, or that kind of threshold where you want to quit and give up. Like, I don't even know if that's the answer you're looking for, or if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does, and it is, and it's something. Myself and Sean never thought we'd run a marathon until we did, and now I can't stop Sean running, even if I try. Like, it's just one of those things that the belief system, and seeing is very much believing, and I suppose for people, we've seen a lot of people come on with different backgrounds, and the beauty of having different stories is you've come from that phase of, I might never do this again, to now leading the way and showing people, and seeing is very much believing. So people around you are obviously going, he can do that from smashing his ankle. I've got good ankles. I should be, like, it's definitely one thing that me and Sean have seen over the years, and having front row seats in this podcast. We could be High Rocks champions and run 2:30 marathons. We know physically we can't, but mentally we think we can every time we show up to a start line. That's the difference. We're bang average, but we've hearts of lions.
And that's all that matters. Because as long as you keep going, I always say it becomes a case of when you hit your goals, not if. Like, again, anyone that doesn't hit their goals, it's just because they quit too soon. That's all it is. But if you're willing to take that, whatever you want to call it, defeat or failure or bad run or that bad marathon time on the chin and get stuck back in again, what's stopping you from doing it the next time or the time after that or the time after that? And I think that's where it's helped me with the patient side of things on the rehab and the injury, like massively. Play the long game, because the quick fixes, they sell, but the long game always wins. Always wins.
So you have your running, your marathon, you're back fit and healthy, you're running towards a 3 hour goal. At what point did you go, I'm working in the gym, everything's set, I could just stay in this set job and train and work my heart out towards this? What changed in your mind to go, no, I'm going to go out on my own now, set my own business, set up Built Different, work with your partner with mindset and everything else and that? What point happened there when you went, I'm going to take a gamble myself and build this business you've built for yourself?
A big part of it was having someone that really believed in me and backed me. So again, and I credit the lads at Movement 101. So that wasn't just mobility; it was also a personal development program, and they helped me a lot with my coaching business and how I approach coaching and stuff like that. So a big part of that was genuinely having someone in my corner that actually believed in me more than I believed in myself at certain times. Because there was, honest to God, like there's been many times like I've just wanted to throw the towel in and just walk away and get not necessarily a 9 to 5, but just go back and work in a gym where I just get paid by the owner or the boss or whatever. There's been time upon time like that I've wanted to do that, but having someone there that sees something in me and believes in me so much that it almost just made me then believe, well, hold on a minute, maybe you can do this. That I have to say, that was a huge part of it. And again, that's why I have a job, because I believe when someone comes to me, I instantly believe in them way more than they believe in themselves. And
Yeah.
when they, do the shit that I'm asking them to do, they start to then build that self belief. So it was a case of him helping me out, giving me the guidance, the structure behind obviously how to build a coaching business, how to go self-employed, how to, market yourself, all these things. And I started doing them and I started seeing it was working. That was just, I suppose, without having to have too much confidence in myself, if I have any inkling of belief that I can do something, I will take I will take a risk and I will back myself to go and do it. And again, if I fail, I'll go away and I'll learn from that and I'll come back and I'll try to do it better the next time. So a big part of it was definitely having someone in my corner that believed in me more than I believed in myself. That was what got me over the finish line of Cork. Like again, there was a video of me in tears. I don't know if you've seen it. And I actually posted on social media. I was shitting at putting it up. I didn't put it up for about 2 weeks because I was rattling. I was like, oh, what are people gonna think? Like, yeah, man, he's a bleeding cry baby. All he did was a marathon. But
Glad you said it.
I take it you've seen it. Well, initially it was just a video that I'd actually sent to my coach, and then I was like, you know what, this is so important. I'm gonna actually put it out to the public and show them what it means to have someone in your corner that actually instills belief in you and that consistently tells you you can do this. And that was a big part of it. A part of it was also as well, like, I am a bit mad in the head, I will be honest. I'm a little bit of a head case. So I just think I've always worked best when I'm like nearly, sailing, like sailing the ship. I don't really like to, do what other people tell me, or I don't really like to answer to someone else, so I like being able to obviously do my own hours. And again, that's the beauty of doing it now, like obviously I'm able to put the amount of time into the marathon training that I can without being on someone else's schedule and without having to work around someone else. And listen, all the gratitude or all the respect to the people that actually go out, you know, they have a 9 to 5 or they have someone to answer to, and then still go out and put the graft in and the effort in. Do you know what I mean? Like my missus goes out at 4 a.m. in the morning, the pitch black, for runs, like, you know what I mean? Even Wayne was only saying to it the other day, like, that's serious dedication. And I'm like, yeah, like that's ridiculous, like, you know what I mean? So but a big part of it for me is just being able to have a little bit of freedom, being able to do what I want when I want. Now, obviously, that's within reason. When you're working it, when you run your own business, you nearly bleed work more hours. You know what I mean? Because it nearly means more to you. But I guess I've always just wanted to have my thing. Like I've always had like this vision of like being able to just just do crazy shit in the world and just, you know, help fucking hundreds and if not thousands of people, and be able to have like leave the world in a better place than I came into it, basically. You know what I mean? And a lot of it probably stems from, again, you know, getting help as I grew up as well. You know, then I thought, Jesus Christ, like if help has got me here, imagine then I started helping people and where I could take them and where I could get them, you know. And then that was kind of a case of, right, well, if you really want to be able to work with people on from a one-to-one capacity, you probably need to do your own thing, because when you're in a gym, you only get to spend a certain amount of time with a client, and you kind of then have to go and give someone else, you know, their shift or session or whatever. And I just got a little bit, I don't know, I want to just take the reins here, and if I fall into a deep conversation with a client, at least I can stay there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was a big part of it for me, to be honest.
I've said before a couple of times on the podcast that coaches need coaches. You know, Michael Jordan had a coach, Tiger Woods had a coach, and you can see there, like when you had your ankle injuries, like I need a coach to ability to get through this. You have a business coach and mental performance coach, and you've gone to them before. You've mentioned Wayne a couple of times. Wayne's been on the podcast back in February or March. Wayne Waldron. As a coach, when you're looking at Wayne's programming and stuff like that, is it just 100% buy-in, wherever he says, that's it? Or does the coach in the back of your mind go, what if I did this? Or what if I pushed that? Wayne says I can do a 3:30 or, you know, this week at pace. Should that be a 3:20, Wayne? Should I push it a bit further? How is it working with Wayne?
Yeah, so in fairness, I did say to him straight away, like when I reached out to him, I said, look, whatever plan you put down, I'll just nail it to a T, and you just give me the structure, you just give me the plan, and I'll do it. Now, he does give out to me sometimes. He gives out to me. Look, don't get me wrong. He's a great bloke, and like if I need to swap sessions around, or if I need to move things around to suit, you know, a specific week, if I'm busier on the weekend, I can't do me long run, I can do it maybe on a Friday or whatever. But it just in terms of like me speed sessions and stuff like that, or if he gives me a run at a certain pace, I have a tendency to be probably 3 to 5 seconds quicker than that. And, you know, he does give out to me, but I think there's a part of him that kind of knows, you know, this fella's well able for it, so I'll let him have it, you know. It kind of is, to be honest, like he just sends a program and I'm just like, right, that's when I'm doing X, Y, and Z, unless I actually really need to change it. Unless I need to just move a session around. But when he puts runs in place, I just execute, and it really is as simple as that. Like I don't go asking questions, or like if I'm curious about something, you know, how does that work, or what's the purpose of that? Yeah, but I won't be thinking, Jesus, like Wendy, you know, will we put a 10K tempo in there instead of an easy run? Like, you know, I won't be asking that sort of stuff. But if I need to move things around or whatever, I'll run certain stuff by him, and it's nice to have him there to answer any questions. And fair play to him as well. He's great. You know, if I have any questions, even something my clients are struggling with, whatever, I can ask some questions, you know, on that side of things as well. So it is great. But it's just put the plan down and I'll go and do it.
Wayne told us he schedules your run 5 seconds slower because you know you go faster anyway. So now the next time you're going to think about 10 seconds faster. This is real life inception. We've planted that seed now, and now you can't trust anything that's on that page.
You know what? That's gas. He actually has hopefully, I don't know when this is going out. Obviously not before Friday, so that's grand. He has me down for 30 on Friday at 4:15 to 4:20, and I'm kind of like, I think maybe a 4:05 to a 4:10. So Wayne, if you're listening back, sorry, pal.
So looking at the next couple of weeks, obviously people are getting their final preparations in for the marathon. So it's too late to get coached by you in this one. But I suppose once they get through the marathon, what can people expect when they reach out to you, and how do they get involved with? Obviously, this episode, people get to know you, and that's the best part of this. But how do they get involved with you, or what does it mean for them when they're looking at the goals for next year?
Well, I suppose the most important thing is that we genuinely connect. You know, where before I work with anyone, there will always be like it's almost like an application process. I don't really like to call it that because I don't want you to think, ah, listen, I'm just going to tell you to piss off if I don't like you. Do you know what I mean? Like, if we don't get on very well, I'll recommend someone else that I think will probably fit better. But generally, I like to think I connect with most people because I'm quite a chatty and hopefully friendly fella. But yeah, we'll go through obviously like the goal setting stage and just see what they want. And we really want people who are gonna, you know, really invest in the whole 360 kind of transformation side of things. It's not just physical. Yes, physical will absolutely help, but I suppose in my journey over the last kind of 10 years, you know, I've always focused on just the physical. And then there was something mental that would get in the way. I was very all or nothing, and I would go to the extremes, and I'd either give up or I'd just completely burn out and then probably start again 6 weeks later. You know, the usual kind of like, you know, 6 week challenge, again, you know, go back to square one and then do another 6 week challenge a couple of months later. So what people can expect is to really focus for us to help them focus on the long game. And again, not just getting in shape, but actually becoming the very best version of themselves physically, mentally, emotionally for the rest of their lives. That's one thing we really massively pride ourselves on. And I'd gladly, you know, even say this on open air, like that we've had quite a few clients leave this year, but for all incredible reasons. And I am in contact with, if not 99% of them, 95% of them on a weekly, bi-weekly or monthly basis. I go and catch up with them. Actually, for now you say it, Eric, I actually went up and caught up with an ex-client over a pizza and a pint. So there you go. You know what I mean?
Your missus at the door and said you heard you caught up with an ex. The door's about to be kicked in. I can see it right behind you. But, we're gonna do some editing to that to get you in trouble.
Brilliant. It's a 360 or 180. I know they're both two different things, but like it's a full 360 transformation. You know, we essentially just want to help show people that they are capable of so much more than they believe. Because again, much like you said earlier, like, you know, we all get caught up in certain times, and we can even compare ourselves to each other. And as you said, like, none of us here thought we could run a marathon until we actually did. You know, like I was running the Ratot on Saturday, and I was, honest to God, I went out there on tired legs, and I was about, you know, in fairness, we went out like bullets, like two greyhounds, me and Darren, my brother, and my legs were wrote off after a kilometer. And I seen then a kilometer and a half in, there was two old men outside the front garden. One of them was in a wheelchair, and I kind of just my whole perspective changed, and I says, don't even dare complain about your legs. This is a privilege to be able to actually have sore legs, because that man can't even walk. And that's like, I don't know how, like, whether that seems a bit fucked up or a bit nuts, or I don't know, but it really, for me, and people always say to me, don't be so forward, or don't be so fucking, you know, la da da. And I'm like, but it's the truth. You know what I mean? There are people out there who would, like, if that was true and I could never play sport again, or I didn't get into running, I can only imagine what I would be like now, looking at people going out and doing marathons, and looking at people playing football, and looking at people living their best life out, you know, in 20 degrees, you know, running with friends. I can only imagine like what I would give to be able to just even go for a 5K if that actually became true for me. And that's why that's why I get so emotional. Like, people even, like, I'm running through the park, if I hit a 5K PB, like, I'm screaming the park down, like all the pigeons and all fly straight out of the park. Like, it's yeah, everyone would be like, there's a storm coming, and my missus would be like, oh, just Aaron after hitting a PB. But like, genuinely, I get really emotional after any difficult run, because it's something that I was told I'd never be able to do again, you know. So it's really what you can expect with us is physical, mental, and emotional mastery, you know, to become the best version of yourself and to, you know, be a better parent for your kids, be a better, you know, partner for your partner, be a better friend for your friends. Because when you've got more energy, you're more confident in yourself, you believe in yourself more, you enjoy life more. It really is as simple as that, you know. And some people might disagree with that, but I'll die on that hill. Like when you're in shape, you feel good about yourself, you've got energy, you're doing things you never thought you'd do, you fucking love life. You know what I mean? Like you do. Life is great. And you don't have to have the fancy car or the big house or anything like that. But life is good, you know, and that's what it's all about for us. It's longevity, living a good quality of life, and being able to be there for your kids, your grandkids when you're older and they're young. And I just want to be banging out pull-ups, making a show of my grandchildren in the back garden. Do you know what I mean? And that it's quite simple, but it is what it is.
And look, as we've alluded to, a marathon is full of moments and a lot of moments. And as is life full of moments and experiences. What do you have as your last kind of bit of advice for anyone who is taking on Dublin and any marathons beyond that? What's your advice for all the various moments they're going to encounter?
Do your very best. Like there's a lot of difficult moments in a marathon. There's a lot of emotional moments. Like you'll probably have moments where you think to yourself, Jesus, like, can I keep going? Like, am I going to finish this? But there's also now moments where you're probably going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. Like 1 minute you'll be in Castleknock, and then before you know it, you're out in Walkinstown. You're like, how did I get here? Yeah, so it really is a roller coaster of emotions. I guess just do your best to put some perspective on it that, you know, if you've done the work, you deserve to enjoy every single step of it. And that really is, you know, regardless of times, and I say this time and time again, regardless of times, it doesn't matter. Everyone is there for the same reason, just to better themselves, to, you know, feel good about themselves, to make themselves proud. And that's really what it's about. So allow yourself to be proud, because do you know what? Like, I think anyone that does a marathon will allow themselves to be proud for a day, but I don't give a shit. Like I'll still tell people how proud of myself I am for hitting a 2.5k PB earlier on. You know what I mean? And I think just even in sometimes in Irish society, we can look down on other people for, you know, thinking that they're big headed or they're cocky for celebrating themselves or like, you know, talking about their achievements. But like, allow yourself to just savor every single moment and remember genuinely how lucky you are to be able to do it. Because again, like you two lads will know as well, like you see some sights in the Dublin Marathon from 32, 34k on, you know, like people, I don't want to scare anyone, but people passed out and, you know, foaming at the mouth and stuff like that. Like make sure obviously between now and then you fuel right, you train well, you eat well, you sleep well, all of those things. But when it comes to the day, you have just earned every single moment of it. And regardless of your time, don't get put down by anyone, because I often think the people that are out there on their feet for 5, 6 hours, I think they have a harder job than me going to try break sub 3. I can't imagine the mental and emotional torture being on your feet for, well, I can for 6 hours, but like, you know, that's tough. That's what tough is, you know, because they're clocking up an extra what, 10, 15, maybe 20, 25,000 steps. That's a lot more stress on the body. It's a lot more impact on the joints. So I often think what they're doing is actually, you know, I'm not going to say it's better, but it's probably harder, you know, and they probably face a lot more doubt and stuff like that, because like us lads are, you know, the guys that are going for the times, we have a really strong mentality that we wouldn't be going for a time if we didn't. You know, we wouldn't be going for a time if we didn't believe in ourselves or we didn't want to fucking smash the time out. Whereas a lot of people are going to just finish it. And I can't imagine how much doubt there is when they hit that 32, 33, 34k mark. So believe in yourself, back yourself and just remember like how much of a privilege it is to get out and run around your city, and like how amazing it is, how genuinely amazing it is, because it's one of the best feelings ever. It really, really is.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And I don't think I could ever walk a marathon. Like if I can't run, I'm not doing it. Don't bring me nowhere near starting line if I can't run and do it. Aaron, like your Instagram. You've been an absolute open book. I'm loving the posts you do, the weekly post leading up towards your goal, whether you hit the sub 3 or not. Hell of a journey. Absolutely brilliant. Anyone listening will have your Instagram handle as well as your details on your Built Different program in the show notes. Absolutely brilliant having you on this week's episode of the podcast. Thank you for coming on.
Lads, I really appreciate it. Honestly, God, it's like two absolute gentlemen, but really, really appreciate it. I was actually quite nervous coming on, and I'm never nervous ever. But I was just like, there's been some serious operators on this thing. We haven't even broke a sub 3 yet, but no, honestly, lads, it's been a pleasure, and thank you very, very much. It's been great, honest to God. And I do listen to the podcast. Don't worry. I know, Eric, you said earlier, I don't know if you've listened to the podcast, but I do. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Well, us two average blokes doing the interview makes it a lot less nerve-wracking coming on anyway. But thanks so much for your time, and we'll be all rooting for you in Dublin.
I appreciate that, lads. Are you doing it as yourselves, if you don't mind me asking? Yeah? Sean,
Yeah,
I know
here
Sean,
too.
you
Yeah,
are. Eric, you doing it now?
No, I'm not. I am hiding in the desert, blaming the heat for all my abilities or lack thereof. But yeah, it's something I'll be back to next year.
Love it. Love it. Well, hopefully I'll see you next year. And Sean, hopefully we can catch up our Dublin, mate.
Absolutely. And that's it for myself, Aaron and Eric. Take care.
Cheers, lads.